Alright, this is going to be an informal talk rather than an official review by my usual standards. I just want to show you this beast here and talk a little bit about it. Well, being careful not to bump into anything due to the size. So this is a Nodachi or Odachi. I wasn't able to determine whether or not Odachi and Nodachi are just two different terms for the same thing, or if there's any kind of significant difference there. I just found some contradictory information, so couldn't really determine that. It's made by Kensei. Apparently this has been discontinued a long time ago, so these are not being made anymore. I got it from someone on the Sword Buyer's Guide forum, a guy in Finland, and when I saw this, I just thought, hey, this would be really awesome to have in the collection because it's humongous. It's kind of ridiculous, pretty much. I mean, this is almost more of a pole arm than a sword. It is very, very long. I've put down a wooden buckler on the floor so I can put the point down. As you can see, this is goes up to my chin. I'm 1.77 meters tall, which is about 5'9" or 10, I think, which is pretty average, at least by Western standards. So you can maybe get a rough idea of how large it is. Weight-wise, it's not too bad. It's a little under 2.5 kilos. Balance is not too far from the guard. If I compare that to the other monster sword I have, the Lowlander, this is another size class up. Standing on the buckler, this is a little taller than I am, and it's also heavier than the Nodachi. It's 3.4 kilograms, I think it was. It doesn't actually feel a whole lot different in terms of weight. Balance on this one is not too different. Okay, so back to the Nodachi. It is obviously significantly larger than a katana. It is also thicker, and the blade is quite a bit wider. I'd say it's about 1.5 times wider than an average katana. And the guard is also larger. The handle, I would say, is also thicker and wider. A lot longer, obviously. The cross-section and edge grind is very similar to the katanas that I've handled so far, although there is, of course, quite a bit of variety there as well. The edge isn't quite as sharp. I mean, it's still decently sharp, but compared to a lot of katanas on the market, this is not quite there. It should be pretty easy to see that this is very strongly curved, like a lot more so than katanas. They do come in different curvatures, of course, but this is, let me just point that this way. You can probably see a little better just how extremely curved it is. I'm not going to say much about how well made it is because I don't feel particularly qualified to make such statements since I've never been very interested in Japanese swords, so I don't know much about them, and I've only handled a few so far. But one thing I can say is it's a shame that the fittings are completely loose. You can see here, this moves a lot sideways. The guard is loose. I can also feel the tang moving inside the handle, which is never a good sign. So this particular one doesn't seem to be very well fitted. Other than that, as far as the cutting performance is concerned, I find it pretty challenging to use, as large swords generally tend to be, because when moving so much mass around, it's a lot more difficult to get the edge alignment right. It's pretty easy to throw it off even just slightly so that it doesn't hit straight on with the edge perfectly aligned. As far as strength is concerned, yeah, it definitely helps to be strong enough to use it effectively. But most important is that you get the technique right, because even if you have very strong arms, if you were to try to do this kind of clumsy swing with just the arms, it's not going to be very effective. What you want to do is engage your core, get the hip movement in there. And I have the microphone in the way, unfortunately, but you pull with the left hand, or the off hand, if you're lefty, is of course the right, instead of pushing with the right. And then you just move your torso basically, or your hips rather, engage them to power the cut as opposed to just using the arms. So it takes quite a bit of practice, and I got a few decent cuts, but overall definitely not easy. And fun factor, you would think that, oh, it's a humongous sword, it's a blast to use, and well, it's true to an extent, but it's not the most lively sword in the hand. Like, I personally prefer something that is a little more agile. If you're a fan of big swords, and this is of course awesome, it's just not entirely my cup of tea, so to speak. Which is also why I'd like to sell this one, if anybody is interested in it, despite this flaw here. If somebody maybe wants to try to fix that. The scabbard, by the way, has been painted red by the previous user, owner, well, maybe he used it too, but I should say owner. And yeah, so can't think of anything else to say about it right now, so hope you found it interesting, and thanks for watching.